Don't be afraid. Be strong and courageous and do not be afraid. The Lord goes with you each and every day. He'll never forsake you. Oh, don't be afraid. He will never forsake you. Don't be afraid. He'll never forsake you. Oh, don't be afraid. He will never forsake you. Don't be afraid. He'll never forsake you.
All right, good afternoon. It is October the 13th. In the afternoon, I've been doing these in the morning, but didn't quite work out this morning. So I'm hooking up with HK this afternoon between some hiccups in technology and also hiccups in life. Had to push back a little bit, but that's all right. So we'll still make connection here. I'm doing these on Tuesday and Thursday, and been interviewing folks from across the country that I've gotten to know through ministry and other relationships, and had the opportunity to get to know. And HK Ballard is who I'm interviewing today. I was in Temple for about 10 years, and I got to know HK a little bit across that time. And as I was going back and sort of reviewing notes, making lists of people I wanted to recontact, that's been kind of what's been fun about this, getting to kind of reconnect with people from the past in ministry and life, and get to see how they're doing, and also get some counsel and some advice on seeking contentment in the world that we live in today. So that's been fun. So bring on HK Ballard. Let me get my little button in the right spot here and bring him on the screen. So there he is. Good afternoon, HK.
Hello.
How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good. HK is the minister at the Troy Church of Christ in Troy, Texas, which is just north of Temple. As I said, I was there about 10 years, and I don't remember how we began connecting, but when did you move to Troy?
We moved there in 2007.
Okay. So
July, 1st of July.
Okay, I moved in 2010, so we had about 3 years crossing. I couldn't quite remember how long it was, but I was a youth minister at Northside Church of Christ, and we kind of connected. I don't remember how initially, but do you remember how initially?
I had asked you if you could bring some of your young people out to do some services for us, kind of make a little change, mostly on Sunday nights, and you did that.
Yeah, we did that 3 or 4 times, and that's the main way we kind of got to know each other. I couldn't remember if there was some initial contact, but I was reflecting on that and thinking back about that. We brought usually a dozen or 15 kids, I don't know, and it kind of doubled maybe or close to doubled Sunday night. But it was, like you said, a good chance for them to see some young people, and you guys cooked meals for us, and we hung out and ate, and it was fun for us too. But one of the neat things about that, I was reflecting on that, and some of those kids that came during that time, 3 or 4 different times that we came, a number of them have kids now. The moms, particularly 3 that I'm thinking of, but good. Christian wives, young ladies with kids, and it's amazing how that's all I always say. It makes me feel old when I think about those things and reflect on those things. And then also one of the young men, it was a youth ministry major at Lubbock Christian University, and he has graduated, and he's looking for employment, but he's been close a couple times. I'm one of his references, so I speak to some of the churches, but so he's seeking employment. Then also we have another couple young men that kind of came through those groups and probably spoke at some of those meetings on those Sunday nights, some of the first opportunities that they had to perhaps speak, but a couple of them are at preaching school as well. and going through preaching school. So it's kind of neat how those things come full circle, with some of those experiences that they had as teenagers, and now they're in their 20s and I don't know, probably at 20s. Like I said, time is a blur a little bit as it goes by, but the opportunities for them to do that was an opportunity to grow, and looking back, it's kind of neat to see those things and to reflect on those things. So you've been at Troy for, I guess that's what, 13 years now, roughly?
About 13 years, yeah.
Okay.
Working on that.
Working on it. Give us a little reflection on living in Troy and your ministry there, just to get an idea. Like I said, in these interviews, I like to kind of lay the groundwork for who people are that maybe watching the video that don't know you, just kind of what Troy, Texas is like a little bit, and ministering in a small town there. And maybe also bring in some thoughts on this coronavirus stuff and ministering through these times of kind of difference and trying to continue to minister and make connection to the group there. Give us some thoughts.
Well, we are mostly older people out at Troy. In fact, one of our ladies out there is 103.
Oh, wow.
and so her name is Annie, and she still comes regularly, of course, being brought by one of our other members. But every Sunday morning, she comes. She used to come every Sunday morning, Sunday night, but she said her body's just not working like it used to.
Yeah.
So, because we just recently, this month in October, started back up on Sunday nights.
Oh, okay.
We back when the coronavirus hit, we stopped meeting. We still have 2 families that do not come there because of their immune systems and because of their age. They just feel like that they're trying to be very, very cautious still. But one of these days, as I talk to them over the phone, and they say, and so our numbers are dwindling. We're not doing any growing numerically, but our numbers are really down because of the COVID-19, because of we've had a lot of deaths. We had one of our members who, I've forgotten when she did this, but quite a few years ago, she still lived out on her farm, and her daughter lived in Midland, and so she eventually moved up there with her. And she recently, just about a month ago, passed away, and she was 107.
Oh, wow. That's some longevity.
Yeah. Actually, I asked him, I said, it must be something in the water out there at Troy or something. But no.
As you make mention of some of those ladies, we did here in Beaumont, we did a CPR class. I don't know if you can put the pieces together, but there's a lady, I'm trying to remember her name. I can't remember her name offhand, but she does CPR classes here, and her mother goes to church there at Troy. But the daughter is here in Beaumont. I'll try to look up the name while you're talking later.
Okay.
Maybe. She told me the name. She told me the name initially because when I told her I lived in Temple, she said, "Oh," and I told her I was a minister at the Northside Church of Christ, and she said my mother goes to the Troy Church of Christ. It was quite ironic.
Well, I'm trying to put, because there's not that many out there. I ought to be able to give you a list of names, but I'm trying to think.
She does CPR first aid classes here.
How about that?
Yeah, kind of neat, but maybe I'll find her name. But anyway, keep on going.
And we're still plugging along. One of the great gifts that God has blessed Troy with is the ability to financially give. And because of that, we're able to still support the ministries that we support. And a lot of children's homes, of course, but one of the last things that we ever kind of hooked up with at the last moment is a brother. His name is Brother Raja over in India, and we send a little bit of help. We were sending money to him maybe once or twice a year, to help them get Bibles in their own language, and they could get it a lot cheaper than us purchasing it here and sending it.
Yeah, shipping them. Yeah.
Right. So anyway, he was and the congregation that is primarily the backbone of the support is a church I served up in Wisconsin. So there were some ties there already, and so we got to know. But that's one of the newer ones that we've kind of we'd like to be able to do more for him. Anyway, and we're blessed. The congregation really knows how to give, and they but our numbers are dropping, and we're trying different things to before this COVID-19 hit. We had created howdy bags. We have a new housing addition being built out there, so it's growing out there at Troy. The city, the town.
Yeah. Okay.
But we had planned to go around that neighborhood after it started filling up and just hanging it on their door, and it tells a little bit about us, and it has a few little knickknacks in it. We put a Bible, a little Bible in it, but then this COVID hit, and then that kind of stopped that. And so
that's challenges to trust anyone, almost putting something on your door or shaking their hand or whatever.
Exactly.
Quite a challenge.
But we're continuing to try to do what we can. We're blessed during the summer months. The past 2 summers, one of the brothers from the Western Hills congregation has been coming out and showing a film, and then directing our Bible class, our adult Bible class, and so that's been encouragement to us. Anyway, but of course he was a little leery about this past summer, because I said, well, we're meeting. You're welcome to try if you want to, and so he did. And so, and you probably know him, remember him, Jim Thigpen.
Oh, okay. I know the name. Yeah. I don't know.
Well, I don't know if you remember that you got us also involved, got me involved, because I haven't been back in a few years, but out at Camp K. And, and you took me out there one time just to see the camp. And so I went a couple of years, 2 or 3 years in a row, and then things changed, and I couldn't go the next, but we kept trying to support at least one camper to be able to go out there financially support them, so that's another, so
little things, along the way.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your family, your personal family. I can't recall too well how many kids you have, or and things like that. Share us a little bit about your biographical background.
Okay. Well, my wife and I, this coming January, will have been married 50 years.
Oh, wow.
We'll celebrate our 50th wedding anniversary this January, God willing. And my wife, Jan, is a attendant secretary at Jefferson Elementary in Temple.
Yeah, they're on the north side of town.
Right. Close to the north side congregation.
Yeah, the church there.
Yeah. And but then we have 6 children.
Okay. I couldn't remember. I didn't remember being that many, but I knew
4 out of the 6 are adopted.
Okay.
And, we had our first child, Jennifer, and a year after we were married, and so and then a couple of years later we had another daughter, and then on down the line a little bit, we adopted a little 3-month-old boy, biracial boy, and Matthew, and when he was turning 5, we found a family. We were living in Iowa at the time. I was doing work with a small church up there, and we found out of St. Louis a family. The Christian Family Services was trying to find a adoptive parents for basically, well, 2 children out of the 3, but they wanted to keep them together if possible. So we said, well, the Lord will open the door or shut it. And so, make a long story short, He opened the door, and we jumped from having 3 children to 6.
Oh wow!
Very quick, because it was two. It was a boy and his 2 sisters.
How old were they when you adopted them?
Well, the oldest was about to turn 12,
okay.
And the middle one, the boy, Ron. Now, her name is Rochelle, and Ron was about to turn 10, and Dee was the youngest, and she was about to turn 5.
Huh, wow.
And so we had
we
had almost 3 sets of twins, because our 2
up.
oldest daughters, our biological daughter and our adopted daughter, are 6 months apart in age.
Okay.
And then our middle children are a year apart in age. And then the 2 younger ones are a month apart in age.
Oh, wow. So all within a year,
yeah. So it made an interesting
dynamic.
Yeah.
Especially teenage, I'm sure, years. Some of those.
There was right before our oldest daughter, and that would have been our adopted daughter, Rochelle. She was about to graduate. So that year, somewhere along in that line, we had all teenagers in our home.
Wow, yeah, that's a lot of dynamics. I've got 2, and that's enough for me.
I hear you. Well, I know why the Lord said, "Hey, you better have your children when you're young," because I wouldn't be able to stay up with them now for sure.
All right. Well, we kind of laid out the groundwork for your family. You got a lot going on there. How many grandkids? I didn't mention.
We have 8.
8. Okay.
And we have 2. Great grandchildren.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
He's starting to really spread the tree out there.
I'll say.
So are they around kind of where are they at around the country generally?
Oh, they're scattered everywhere. Now our oldest biological daughter when she was still single, had adopted a biracial girl. She's in her 20s, and she's living now down close to Houston, if not in Houston. And that's where she gave us our second granddaughter, a great granddaughter.
Mm-hmm.
And then but Jennifer, our oldest biological daughter, and her husband lives and teaches at Del Valley in Austin.
Oh, okay.
And so they're here in Texas. We have a son that had not quite a year ago changed jobs, and he now drives a truck cross country.
Oh, wow. He's all over the place.
Oh, he is. And so he doesn't, in fact, he was telling us he's thinking about just getting rid of his apartment because he's hardly there,
Oh, wow.
And so, but anyway, and then we have a daughter, our other younger biological daughter, Sarah. She and her husband and son live in Durango, Colorado.
Oh, wow. That's nice.
Yes.
I've been up there a few times. That's really
very nice. Mm-hmm. And then our youngest daughter, Dee, and her daughter live up in Indianapolis, Indiana. And then our oldest adopted daughter, Rochelle, I mentioned her a few moments ago. She still lives in Wisconsin, where all of our kids were raised.
That's way up north, yeah.
Yeah. And I thought of all people, she would be the first one to leave Wisconsin, but she's got a lot of ties there. She's
connections.
Her children, and now she's a grandmother now, and so. And then we have a son who lives in California.
Wow, yeah. So that is all over the place.
So we have some great places to go visit.
Yeah. Way west and way north anyway. Yeah, and in between. All right. Well, laying the groundwork there. Get kids, grandkids, great grandkids, and kind of your work there in Troy. I'm going to kind of bring it around here to Philippians chapter 4, as I've been interviewing folks and getting perspectives on seeking contentment in the world that we live in today, as you mentioned, between some of the coronavirus implications and some of the election implications of stress and kind of back and forth that goes on with that, and just some of the turmoil that we're living in, and kind of to get some advice from folks on how to seek contentment, because I think that's one thing that Paul talks about in Philippians chapter 4. Mentioned in these videos, usually, about everyone knows what Philippians 4:13 says. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Kind of depends on your translation there, but we get that idea. And as I usually say, a lot of that's on a lot of the walls in sports locker rooms, and sometimes in our athletic context, we see those and kind of cheer ourselves on and say, hey, we can do this, and people know that verse. But as we look at Philippians 4:11 and 12, right before 13, and look at the context, I think it really gives some ump to that Philippians 4:13 passage. Paul says, I'm not saying this because I'm in need, for I've learned to be content whatever the circumstances. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I've learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. And then verse 13, I can do all things, or I can do all this through him who gives me strength. So Paul lays it out there right before verse 13 and says, hey, the only way I can say I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength is because of the fact that I've learned to be content. And as we look at Paul's life, he has all kinds of ups and downs, just like in life we have, sometimes way down, sometimes way up, sometimes in between. And as I said, right now with this coronavirus and all these things, it seems a little bit of a funk in some ways, as we, have less fellowship and less connection a little bit, and some of the implications from that. So Paul says, still, I'm seeking to be content, even in those low places, and in the high places. We have some highlights as well. But give us some thoughts on seeking contentment. What do you do as an individual, as a family maybe, to try to seek contentment in your life on these lows and highs and in-betweens?
Well, it's interesting that you shared this, because the end of this month, the very last Sunday of this month, I have a lesson prepared to share with the congregation out at Troy about being content, and it's based on Philippians 1 verses 12 through 18. And I don't want to, preach this message by any means, but it's, we allow sometimes our circumstances, as you well know, control whether we're content or not. And Paul wouldn't even allow being a prison epistle or letter that he writes here. He's under guard, and yet he's not allowing his circumstances to change what God sent him to do. And I think that's a great example for us, that we don't let all what's going on in our world and country, our nation, to dictate our whether or not to be content or not. But it's hard, isn't it? It really is hard to be able to allow that kind of attitude to permeate from us. We need to remain positive. I like getting on Facebook. I stay in touch with my children on Facebook, my grandchildren, my friends still up in Wisconsin and Iowa and many other places. And I see a lot of things on Facebook. Some of them are, of course, very negative, but I see a lot too of no matter who's going to be the next president, we still have to believe that Jesus is still King of Kings and Lord of Lords. And that brings us some peace and encouragement to be content with no matter who sits in the White House, or no matter, as you might recall, and I don't know if you realize this, but I serve as a volunteer for Lifeline chaplaincy.
Yeah, I remember. I vaguely remember that. Yeah.
And rarely, I mean, since March, I haven't been in the hospital making visits. And you talking about having to get used to something when you average maybe 2 to 3 times a week, and to spend anywhere from 4 to 6 or maybe even 8 hours making visits, and now all of a sudden cold turkey you stop. And so but that we had to do that, and so we had to learn a different way. Now just recently I did go and make some visits. Make a visit because it was requested, and the hospital here in Temple had changed their policy of allowing people to come in or not come in. And anyway, I say all that just to say that Paul in Philippians 1 in 12 through 18 allowed himself, saying, still the gospel is being presented. Yes, maybe by some it's not being presented as it should be, but at least it's being presented. And he says, even if I'm in my chains, I'm still, the word of the beautiful word of the gospel is being shared among the guards. That's kind of a rough draft of what he says. And so he still fulfilled his calling as a Christian, but specifically as a minister of the gospel, of course. So I think what we need to learn from that is, and I think we all are hearing this now, not allow our circumstances to say, okay, I can't go to the hospital anymore. I can't go to homes very often. I mean, I am called on to sometimes come, but not very often.
Yeah, that's similar. Yeah.
So you have to take the circumstances that you're in and cope with it, and redevelop it, restructure it. I still stay in touch with a few patients through messaging and texting because they can't speak very well over the phone. Tom Knuckles, who's our director at Lifeline, he makes calls to certain patients and they visit over the phone. I haven't done that as of yet, and there's a couple of reasons why, but I do text. There's one particular patient that I'm texting and messaging quite often. And so what we're doing is that we're learning how to care for one another, but in a little different way. And that we're still doing what God has called us to do, and have that kind of attitude, and just be thankful for that, and which is hard. I'm not saying it's easy, but and I am contemplating retiring here in the next couple of years, if Lord willing, and from the ministry on a full-time basis. My wife is worried about, well, what will you do with all your time? And don't want you to start, we hear about people who retire and they stop doing, and they start going downhill in their health. And so I've got some plans of what I'm going to do. I still go and volunteer in other areas, the love of Christ. I know you're familiar with. And so I'm going to, I guess, finding new ways to be able to still serve others during the time. Even you mentioned racism a few moments ago. Just last Sunday at 5:00, the Black Lives Matter met in Troy. Now I haven't heard anything about it. I was wondering why on earth did they come to Troy, as small of a location as that is. But I haven't heard anything. But maybe I'll get a report this coming Wednesday from some of the members there, because, as you know, I live in Temple, and I do try to go to Troy, which is just maybe a 20-minute drive away. And so I guess what I'm saying is that we just need to learn how to stay connected, and you're helping do this with this
Technology,
ministry. You bet you.
Technology can help, definitely. Yeah, that's what I've told some people. Imagine this happening 30 or 40 years ago. It would be a little bit more of a challenge to like have some connection and promotion of what's going on. To be able to do the worship services or classes or things online and connect online makes it a little bit easier. Still, like I said, there's not that personal touch necessarily, but there's at least some social interaction ability to do that. What other things come into mind? And maybe you're seeking contentment with you and your wife, maybe on a personal level. Does anything come to mind? Kind of in your family?
Of course, what this has done for me and for my wife, we're learning to be cautious. Wearing masks, washing our hands, keeping our social distance, and that's real hard for her because one of her duties is to govern and oversee a time period of the lunchtime. And of course, these kindergarten kids need help opening up their packets or, something like that. So there she is, touching them and getting close to them. And so, but she's learning how to do that and stay safe. It's challenging us to also be more conscious of others. I know I talked with people, they don't wear masks, they don't believe in that. They asked me why I wear mine because it's not helping. It's not, it's a bunch of hogwash in their minds.
You're not hurting anybody by wearing it either. That's
what I tell them. I said, I want people to feel safe. If by me wearing it around you who don't care whether I wear it or not, you don't have to worry about it. And for those who do care whether I wear one or not, then I'm making them feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And so I don't have a problem with it. It's just one of those things that that we have to do to help a relationship with the community we live in to feel safe.
Paul too, and I always think of 1 Corinthians 9. Paul talks about becoming all things to all men to win some. To the weak I became weak to win the weak, and he gives all those examples. And sometimes, like I said, we're not willing to even do something small to say, okay, I'll give a little bit here to communicate with this person, or to, like you said, to feel comfortable in my presence, or whatever it is, a small token or a small thing, which doesn't, like I said, cost you anything, or the people that may not want to wear a mask, it doesn't cost them anything for you to wear a mask. But like you said, at least it can bridge to those people that may feel more comfortable with wearing a mask to be able to do that.
Well, and I guess what we're summing this up, what in my message that I have prepared for the end of this month about being content, and that's the title of my message, is that Paul surrounded himself with people he could depend on too. Now, today we can't maybe be surrounded physically, but we can certainly continue to stay. Thank goodness we have this, the technology that we have, a simple phone call, checking on people.
Text messages, and different things.
Messages, exactly. And so we have this capability. And so Paul, in his imprisonment, he, in some of his letters at the end especially, he'd always praise certain people that he knew he could depend on.
That helped him in the ministry.
Right. So that's what I believe, that if we will just continue to do our best to surround ourselves with people we know we can look to and depend on, that's going to help us get through this time of circumstances we're under, plus giving us some contentment too, knowing that we're doing that.
Yeah, and it's much not easier, I guess, easier in some ways to go through with that mind frame of contentment rather than a mind frame of, oh no, this stinks and it's never going to end and life, is bad and whatever, and it's challenging, but like you said, at the same time, you got to look at I'm a glass half full guy anyway. And I know you
Yeah.
kind of are too, but yeah, there's going to be better days ahead and kind of got some challenges right now, but work through them. And like you said, have some people to support through those challenging times, and it's much easier to keep that contentment. Anything else as we close? Thoughts that you have?
No, I appreciate the opportunity of sharing and
Sure, yeah. Thanks for sharing about your family and like I said, catching up a little bit and your ministry there. And it's good to chat with you and hear about things a little bit there in the Central Texas area. We haven't been back up there in a while, but we used to come every other year or so, but it's been a little while. We had a house there in Western Hills that we continued to rent it out, but we sold that. So now we're completely unconnected from there, but not totally unconnected socially. But anyway, all right, let's close with a prayer and then we'll go ahead and log off. Father, just thankful for the time that I have visit with HK, and just pray that you'd bless him and his wife and their kids and grandkids and great grandkids, and bless his work as he continues to work with the Troy Church there and those good folks, and just pray that you'd give them a spirit of perseverance through these challenging times. As he mentioned, they're a little bit of an older population, but help them to be safe and well as they continue to seek to encourage one another in this walk that we have. Just thankful that we can seek to encourage one another, as HK mentioned, seek to surround ourselves with those that will help us to see the glass half full and help to try to encourage each other to stay content and to be content through these challenging times. And we know that there'll be some better times ahead. We know that you came to give us an abundant life, and we're thankful for that, and pray that we would walk in that abundance as we go day by day, that we would seek to minister to those who may be in need around us, those who are sick and hurting. I pray that we will be aware of those situations and that we would step forth and seek to serve and help those people who are in need. Thankful for the blessings that we have in you day by day. Help us to realize those and count those blessings and not take them for granted, but help us to realize those and help us to seek to use what you've given us to bless others as we go day by day as well. We're thankful for Jesus and the life that we have in him. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Well, thanks for visiting and sharing some on seeking contentment. And I pray that your sermon goes well. That's definitely a apropos topic for the days that we're living in. And Philippians addresses that definitely. So, all right, my friend, we'll log off, and it was good chatting with you. And,
Thank you for the invite.
All right. Well, have a good afternoon and evening.
You too.
All right. Bye-bye.